Hey everyone, Joe here, and today's What's Cracking. We've got a very cool. All you have to do, all you want to know, all you need to know. Look at the wall behind my next guest, Armand. It's a pleasure to see you here, man. I've got to say, I was really excited to see you, and once I saw your room, I somehow got more excited. So thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. So we will absolutely talk about the horror and crime books. I'm just curious because you were talking before. You pointed to the shelf. Like, these are my books. How many books do you have in horror and crime?
I think I have 183 releases, 184, something along those lines. And that's not all like complete novels. That's
Right.
anthologies I've been in over the years. But it's a lot of it's actually a lot of novels. 30 years of doing this, and this will be
Wow.
my 14th year full time able to make a living as a writer.
That's amazing. Today's stream, I'm Streaming Demons is my other show. Sorry. Today's What's Cracking. How to feel bad about yourself. Well, welcome to. I'm like, I had a decent track record for a while. 100? No. Okay, my track record's a little less than yours now. So, what got you into writing, man?
Dean Koontz. I was
Oh,
12 years old. And I always tell this story. I was 12 years old, and my brother is a year and a half younger than me, and we used to beat the crap out of each other. And it was like the last day of school, whatever year that is, like sixth grade or something, and we just brawled. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she said, "You're both punished for the summer."
ooh,
And literally back then, you were punished for the summer.
yeah.
And so my brother got to stay in our room with all the toys and everything. And I got stuck in my parents' room and in the front of the house watching all the kids play for 2 months. And my mother still is a huge, huge horror reader.
Cool.
And she had like, at that point, up to that point, every Stephen King book. And I tried a couple. I was like, I'm 12. This is too wordy. And then I grabbed a Dean Koontz book and I loved it. And I started reading all of them. And then my mother realized that I was really digging reading and stuff. So she would leave me a stack of books and say, "Here, these are the ones you can read," and and basically anything Dean Koontz. And I remember when Phantoms came out, like maybe I was 13 or something, and I read that and I just absolutely loved it. And I wrote a report in school in like seventh grade or whatever.
Really?
Like you do, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I want to play a quarterback for the New York Jets, and I want to be a fireman. And I was like, I want to be a writer. And my mother always teases me. She still has that, and she always teased me. She said, you should have wrote, I want to be a rich and famous writer, because you became a writer, but that was it. It was no looking back from that moment. I always had a book. Anytime a Dean Koontz book, to this day, like he just came out with a book 2 days ago, and I immediately downloaded and started reading it.
That's an amazing story. I'm so A, very cool mom, by the way. Very
Yeah.
cool mom. That's the way to do it. And B, man, good for you. Good for honestly, Dean Koontz. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Not because he stopped writing. It's because, like, everything else has been like da 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 da. So you
Yeah.
bringing me back to my childhood. I'm like, my God, that's right. Like, that was the big one. Like, it was him and King, and then Dean Koontz, and then like one other person that might pop in now and then.
Yeah,
But
here and there, but it was
yeah,
King. You were either a King fan or a Koontz fan. Most people were King fans growing up, but I was the Koontz fan, which was kind of neat.
which is unique because you really do hit it on the head. The difference between the two was not so much level of craft; it's how much stuff you have to flip through for Stephen King to get to the fucking point. Oh, we can
Yeah,
swear on this podcast, by the way. To get to the point, like, oh my God, I love both. I do. I love both. I'm looking at my wall of horrors, in front of me right
right.
now. Like, I've got like a lot of. I don't have the new one, so the new one's good. Of course,
All of
it's
them.
good.
So Dean
Yes.
Koontz signed a deal with Amazon. So like the last 3-4 years, all of his books have come out. They're all in Kindle Unlimited, and they're all yeah. So
What?
he's been on a roll, 2-3 books every year, and his new stuff is great because he's older now. So
Yeah.
it's more of how shitty is the world right now, and I'm going to make these great great kids. They're very character driven, and they're all
Yeah.
very different. So,
That's one of the things I really love about good writing, especially for horror. They're character driven.
yeah,
It's not like, oh, this is the plot, and I fill in like the cardboard cutouts. Like, no, no, no. Like the characters really drive the story, and that's something he's a master of. And I can't believe I didn't know he made that deal with Amazon because, dang, that's like AC/DC making a deal with Walmart back in the day. You
right,
sold out. You sure did. I
yeah,
mean, but you sold out every copy, man,
yeah,
because once it
exactly,
goes to the store, they already bought them.
100%. Yeah, he's just really mastered writing
Yeah.
great different characters. I always say you can have phenomenal characters in a book,
Right.
but a so-so plot, and it's still going to probably be a great book.
Right.
But you could have a so-so characters and a great plot, and nobody cares. And that was the one thing when I transitioned into writing crime thrillers. Is my wife was a huge Janet Ivanovic fan,
Right.
and the Stephanie Plum series, and I wanted to write something like that. And I'd never read those books, and I said to her, "Well, what? Tell me about the plots. Tell me about." And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I've read like 20 books, but I can't tell you the plot of any of. I can tell you plots, but I don't know what book it is. But I
Right.
can tell you which guy she was seeing in the books, which different like it's all about the characters." And so I realized, you know what, I need to write more character driven books. I need to create
Right.
a series that you care about the main character.
I think that's where to go. And I'm looking through like you're doing a mystery or a thriller, a crime book, even the Agatha Christie's, or maybe especially Agatha Christie's. I can't remember all the plots, but I remember Hercule Poirot. I remember I remember the characters.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I couldn't tell which plot goes to which unless it's like the famous like Murder Orient Express,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's been a movie 12,000 times. So you went from horror, and then because of your wife's interest, you went to crime?
No, actually, the weird part is I always loved crime thrillers. I
Okay.
always read, I read all the classics. I read Raymond Chandler, and
Right.
I read all that stuff, and I loved. But I didn't think I had the chops to write any of that stuff. And back in 2015, Amazon had a thing called Kindle Scout, and it was a contest, and they bought I think they ended up buying like 200 books out of like 10,000 that were submitted. And when I first read it, I read the okay, here's what they're doing. No horror. They wanted thrillers. They wanted romance. They
Yes.
wanted sci-fi. They want
The main
that
cells.
stuff. Nothing too crazy in it. And, not no sex and violence and profanity. All of that. And I said, you know what? I've been working on this idea in my head that is about a hitman who kills children. Very dark. I have kids. I'm like, I don't even know if I can write this thing. It was
Right.
called Killing is My Business and Business is Good after the Megadeth album.
Megadeth.
And so I was like, you know what? I had kind of started it. And then I said, wait a minute. What if he doesn't kill the children? What if he saves them? What if like a senator or a politician or an
Right.
athlete or something has like an affair and there's a kid born? What would happen if he's the guy who they pay to kidnap the kid and make the kid disappear? But instead of killing the kid, he has a system where he moves them to people who want a kid.
I
And
like
so
that.
that was the whole premise, and it became Dirty Deeds. And they bought the first book, and it did phenomenal. And I was going to sign a deal with them for
Right.
future books, but they wanted like one a year. And I'm like, the first book ends on a cliffhanger. I can't wait a year for a second book to come out. And I was already getting reviews of, this ends on a cliffhanger, 1 star, that
Why
kind of,
did you yeah.
yeah, that
Series,
kind
what's
of thing.
that?
So I was like, you know what? No. So I ended up 12 books. The series has been complete.
Yeah.
So the first one came out in January of 2016. And then I put like 2 out a year on average from then. I
Okay.
ended up doing 12 books in that series, which has led to spin-off series, a couple of other
Right.
thrillers with some of those characters in it.
Yeah,
But for me, that was like, hey, I can do this. I can actually write, a crime thriller where it makes sense, and it's not that far from writing a horror book. It's
right.
just it's kind of I look at it like, I go, you know what? Horror book, we're point of view of the monster, and we're point of view of all the crazy stuff that happens. Crime thrillers, we're trying to stop all the crazy stuff from happening.
I think you hit it on the head again. And it's horror adjacent, meaning you can still see the elements of it. You can
Yeah.
still see the basic building blocks of it, but it's slightly askew. So, especially if it's a crime thriller, and I love what we did with yours, right? Not only the titles going from, Megadeth to AC/DC, by the way, I will catch all of these. I do the same. Mine were monkey songs. Like, "Oh, Pleasant Valley Sunday." Sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so you're seeing all this, but it's you're flipping it, so it's not like you're trying to like the guy's trying to kill all the kids. Now he has a network to save them, and then that network becomes maybe some spin-off characters which have their own book, and it builds an empire, which is brilliant. Good job for you, man. Now, one a year, for those of you who don't write, one a year might sound like little or a lot, depending where on the spectrum you are, of starting your journey or where you are in writing journey, right? But 2 a year, you wanna do 2 a wow, how many words? How many words? I'm just curious for a crime. Is it like 70, 50?
63,000 words is the sweet spot.
Wow.
And I'm writing 400,000 or more words a year. My wife made me a spreadsheet. So I'm writing several books. I'm writing 5 or 6 books a year, and between stories and anthologies,
Yeah.
and I've co-written a bunch of stuff with other
Cool.
people. So I'm putting out, I might put out a book every 6 weeks, and I've
That's
been doing that for years.
that's amazing, because as a writer, if you say, "Oh, I put out X amount of titles," well, that could be in, like, the anthology section, so you're actually putting out short stories or whatever it's gonna novellas, or I'm putting out romance, which is a shorter count. But if you're saying like, "No, I'm doing 400,000 words a year," I'm like, "Huh? Like, what now?"
It,
Like, I
it
was like,
comes to, if you write 1,096 words a day average, that's 400,000 words.
"That's not bad." And 1,096, that's basically what you're doing chapter then, yeah? A
Yeah,
little over?
it's pretty much
Yeah.
you're writing a couple pages into a third page maybe.
Yeah.
And I break it down to that. I don't ever go, I got to write 400,000. New year, I got to write 400,000 words. I say I have to write 1,096 words or more today.
It's awesome.
You
It's
know,
manageable.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's kind of the breakdown for me. And then knowing, hey, I'm gonna not feel like it some days. My wife is gonna yell at me that I'm sitting at the computer, 12 hours a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Take me to dinner, kind of thing. So I try to build in. I try to get ahead as much as possible, because I know, I might have a book signing. I might have,
Right.
Mother's Day or whatever.
Life might pop up. I'm guessing you're typing at a keyboard instead of like the old-fashioned clickety clacks or even the legal notebooks, which I don't think anyone quite uses anymore. But what if your power goes out?
My
It's
power
like
goes
all
out,
these,
then I go to bed and I read.
right.
you know, I
Yeah,
mean,
always be working towards something. I love that idea. So, if you had to pick to do one genre for the rest of your writing life, what is it going to be?
crime thrillers.
Crime thrillers.
I
Cool.
literally make. I say this all the time, and my friends, other authors, we do a lunch every month, and I make sure I always say I literally make 10 times the amount of money selling crime thrillers than I ever did selling horror books.
I could testify to part of that. I have okay. Here's a challenge to everyone. If you're wondering what sells and what doesn't sell, go to your nearest bookstore. Walk past the candles. Walk past like the glassware and all the other things they have to sell to keep the lights on, and see how much stock they have in their bookshelves for what genre. And take away Stephen King, anyone that came from his loins, from the horror. You have to take all his books out, all the Joe Hill books out, take them away, and see who you have left over. How much horror space? Take away Koontz. Well, actually, Koontz is now Amazon mostly, anyways.
Yeah.
Uh, so you see how much horror shelf you still got left. Now look at the other shelves. How much shelf space does romance have? How much shelf space does thrillers have? That's why. That's if people want to make money, those are the genres you need to get in.
And I'll still write horror. I still write
Right.
horror short stories. I still love the genre. I still read it, but
Absolutely.
I know that in order for me to not have to go back to a retail management garbage job,
Right.
this is the stuff I need to keep writing.
No, absolutely, absolutely. It becomes a business when you see it can be a business, and I think people forget that, like, "Oh, it's all about the art." Like, no, no, no. Art's great and all.
Yeah,
Art doesn't put food on table.
right.
You use your art to make it into business and then start seeing yourself like that way. That's how
If you
you
look at this, it's a hobby, and hey, I got a full time job, and I'm making money somewhere else, or my spouse has a career, and we're
Right.
living off of their money. Kind of, then then good. Then you write whatever you want to write.
Yep.
You do whatever you want to do, but it gets to a point where I'll start a series, and I'm like, this is not making me any money. I've done at the end of the contract, it'll be 12 monster books with Severed Press. But while the money I can't complain about the money.
Right.
Horror authors are like, oh my God, I can't believe you make that much. But I make so much more doing the other stuff that I'm like, I don't want to write any more of these monster
Right,
books.
and absolutely, man. It's the marketability sometimes, and not. I mean, I used to own a horror company. Like, I would always my love for horror runs deep, but I also know marketing a
Yeah.
bit, and yeah, love for horror runs deep. The pockets do not. You
Yeah.
know.
It's a small, people don't realize it's a small rabid community.
Yeah.
So they're going to
Absolutely.
buy your books, but there's not that many of them out there. Whereas thrillers, romance, those are mainstream enough
Oh,
that
the
people are
airplane
just going to
books.
randomly come in and they're going to buy your stuff, and they're going to buy everything.
Yeah. It's not to I don't need to pimp Steve Piper at all, but, like, not to we probably know the course we're talking about. Like, yeah, they will buy back catalogs,
Yeah.
1,000%. You have a series, you have multiple series, you have 100 books, they might even buy your horror stuff just for giggles,
Yeah.
but they'll definitely buy the entire series. If you had a series of 5 or 6 in a line, they're buying all of them.
Yeah. So I have a
It's
lot of I have a the Dirty Deeds is 12 books. My
12.
first Coast Thrillers is 6. I'm writing Down and Dirty, which combines a character from both of those series.
Nice.
That'll be 6. Um, I do every year. Me and another author, Tom Duffy, we just started our third set of trilogies. So we've done a heist trilogy we put out a couple years ago, and then last year we did a shipwreck adventure one with one of two of the characters from that, and then we'll do another. So every January,
Yeah.
February, and March we rapid release 3 books, and
Okay.
so we're writing them now, and we'll set them up
And then
to
pop,
put
pop,
them
pop.
out, and then
Yeah.
they'll just be like January 15th, February 15th, March 15th, all 3 books, and then in the summer we'll put a box set of all 3 books out.
Okay, so when you're doing this, and that again, for those who don't know, that's an amazing train like Johnny Cash rhythm schedule that you put yourself on. Do you find the scheduling part as important as the creative part?
100%. It's the it's the I call it the my poor man's James Patterson factory. I literally have a dry erase board here, and it has every project, and it's broken down by monthly. That okay, if I write roughly 30,000 words on this or whatever, then I can finish this novel in this, and then I edits is here, beta readers is here. So I literally have like the next 18 months roughly laid out.
Right.
And again, it doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it's hey, I get into a groove, and I've done 5 and 6,000 words, especially towards the end of a book,
Yeah.
and I'd knock out that last 20,000 words in like 3 days or 4 days, and then I'm like, I'm ahead. Let me go to beta readers. Let me go to my editor. The schedule is going to stay the same. The pre-orders are already set
Right.
on a lot of these,
Oh yeah.
but
We'll change that.
let me let me get these books done. So now they're just kind of they're sitting there for 3 weeks or a month or ahead of schedule, which is
That,
nice.
that's really great. And yes, as you write, at least for me and apparently yourself, the closer you are to the end, the faster it comes. It's like,
Yeah,
you're just trying to like
and I'm not an outliner at all. I'm a total pantser. So
good.
I
High
have
five.
no idea where this is going. It's
Brilliant.
literally it's the what if question,
Yep.
and let's see where this goes. And
Yeah.
I'll take I have a million post-it notes where I'm writing character names down or something. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's all I really need to just keep it going. And I'm writing multiple projects like in the same day,
Oh. Oh my God. It's like
so I'm
talking to
just
me. Nice.
I
Or a
am
more
all
successful
over the
version of me.
place. I do on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I go live on Twitch and I write for about an hour.
Really?
Yeah,
You're using Twitch to really?
I'm using Twitch to write.
What's
Yeah,
your Twitch handle?
it's Armand_Rosamilia.
Nice.
This is my name.
Basic name. We'll put it in the
Yeah,
notes.
and so that's great. And then I'm making money on Twitch writing, and I'm talking to people, and there's other writers that are in there. There might be a dozen people in there on any given day, and we're joking around and we're
Yeah.
talking and but we're talking like while I'm writing. There's also a lot of breaks of let's talk about Winger from the '80s. Let's talk about hey Ace Frehley's playing some show like random heavy metal stuff. I talk
Yeah.
about way obscure heavy metal bands. We'll talk about food. I talk about food way too much. So we just talk about things, and it's for me, it's kind of like getting out of the house because
Yeah.
3 days a week I get to talk to other people,
It's
which is
amazing.
great. And then I take that Twitch when it's done that hour, and then I move it over to YouTube. And then I'm trying to build up my YouTube to that magical 1,000 subscribers so I can make
Right.
money on YouTube by using that content with other content. So
That's
it's that return on investment of
right.
I'm writing, I got to write these stories anyway, but now I'm
Yeah.
making money on Twitch and I'll eventually make money on YouTube by you watching me writing some of that stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, honestly, I never thought about using Twitch. I tried Twitch to get it. I couldn't. I never thought using Twitch to do the writing thing. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of writers on there. One of my best friends in the world, Jay Wilburn, had started doing it before he passed away about a year or so, and he's like, "You got to do this because you're making money off of making money." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." And I started doing it, and it's just a lot of fun. It also those days when I'm like, "Hey, the depression's kicking my ass. Or I just
yeah,
don't feel like doing anything." I'm like, I gotta get on. It's also great for me because I'm home all the time. So it's like, I got to go online, and
it's a social.
I wore this shirt. I've worn these clothes for 3 straight days. I better go take a shower so nobody's like, didn't you wear that on Monday? It's now Wednesday,
Yeah,
So it really mentally it helps me because it forces me to sit down and write.
oh,
It
absolutely.
forces me on those days, and I'm like, you know what? If I can get yesterday I was on and I did like 1,200 words just sitting in that hour, just knocking it off. I'm 2 finger typing.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like
Oh
literally
wow.
finger
Four
typing.
hundred thousand words, two fingers of typing.
Yeah,
My
and
God.
so it's great, and it just really it keeps me honest. I look at all of this, and I'm like, I have to write, but you also have to keep people interested
Right.
in your stuff. There's no such thing as I write a book and I just put it out and no one's seen me
Buy it.
or
Yeah.
talk to me. But yeah, you're magically going to make millions of dollars off this.
No.
Never going to happen
No. There's
unless you're
too many
Bentley
people.
Little. If Bentley
Yeah.
Little can do it.
No, absolutely. And I'm gonna have to jump in and I have to get my Twitch account back just to jump in and see yours.
Yeah,
This is
definitely
fascinating to me.
jump in and join in. Like I said, there's
Yeah.
other authors on there. There's people that will just pop in and out. There's a core of 4 or 5 people that every 1 o'clock, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday they are there, and we're talking. I do a thing every August. This will be the 5th year now, called MondoCon. My nickname growing up, my name is actually Armando, but
Right.
I go by Armand or Armin, and so Mondo is my nickname. So I did a thing called MondoCon as a kind of as a joke, and I said to my wife, I want to invite authors to come and hang out for a weekend, and we'll write. We'll do like a writers retreat. And she's like, I'll cook all weekend. My wife's Southern; she loves to cook.
Oh wow.
So Thursday, people fly in and they leave Monday, and we'll have like 10 or 12 writers that'll. About half of them, we have 3 guest rooms, we have 2 couches, so we'll get like people fly in from Milwaukee, they fly in from Philly, they fly in from New York, from New Jersey, all over the place. and they'll fly in, and then we do a writers retreat, and and the goal is like, okay, 5,000 words is your goal, and you write it on the dry erase board and sitting in the living room, and then we check it off, and everybody cheers, and then we eat way too much food, and there's you know bags and bags of M&Ms, and my wife makes 5 different kinds of cookies and all
Oh
kinds of
wow.
stuff, and it's great because for me it's really that motivation of, I know for those Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when we're writing, I know I got to do 15,000 words those 3 days, and so we're getting to the point now where we're already set up. We know who's coming in August, and it's like, what are you working on? What are you gonna do? Because I also have 5 or 6 local writers that will
Right.
also
That's
come,
cool, man.
and so we'll just all sit around, and we tons and tons of coffee. I do a thing called coffee of the day, where I try a different coffee every day, and I literally have like 500 different K cups,
Really?
and so we'll just stack up K cups, and then like people, there's a buddy of mine, JC Walsh from Philly, and he'll literally drink like 10 to 15 cups of coffee a day
Oh,
while he's here, and I'm
oh.
like, dude, you're already too wired. I can't. You better switch to decaf. But yeah, but it's great because then afterwards we'll have, my wife will make a big dinner, and then we sit around and we'll have some drinks, and we'll sit out in the back of it's not too hot, and we'll just talk shop until 1 o'clock in the morning, and then okay, 9 a.m. let's go, 9 a.m. Everybody
Yeah.
get your coffee and sit down and write, and again, this is a fifth year we'll be doing it, which is
Very
great.
cool, man. Very cool. And again, if you tuned in late, the podcast is called "Make Joe Jealous." That's the title of today's podcast. With no, so this is amazing. I mean, honestly, the time just wow, time just flew. So, what are you working on that you can talk about? What's your next release?
My next release will be Down and Dirty 5, which is serial killers. Every book they chase down in a different place serial killers, and it's Marissa from the Dirty Deeds series and Xavier from the First Coast Thriller series. The two of them get put together in a special squad for the government to go and chase down serial killers. So this one, book 5, is set in Alaska, which is a lot of fun to chase down a serial killer in Alaska. But we've had Tampa, Florida, Nashville. I can't even remember where the other ones.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's like a concert tour.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's
I
like, okay,
love it.
you've captured the person in Nashville, but now you got to go to Las Vegas. That was the third one. Was they had
Oh,
to go to Vegas.
that's amazing, man. That's amazing. So, where can we find your books? Where can we find your books right now?
Obviously, I'm on Amazon. Check that out. ArmandRosamilia.com was my website. Again, find me on Twitch. Find me on YouTube. Please find me on YouTube. I want to build that up. I got like 200 and something people on there, and I post my coffee short every morning, and I
Nice.
do book reviews. I do. I'm going to start doing the podcast thing again, but just doing interviews with like thriller authors
Right?
and stuff like that, because I did it for years. I mean, I did Armcast podcast.
Yeah.
I had 400 episodes,
Wow.
and the Mondo Method podcast, me and Chuck Buda did together, we had 333 episodes.
That's amazing, man. You are a powerhouse of entertainment.
I
Like
just try to
sincere.
keep busy. You got to just keep busy.
Yeah. And keep that moving forward one step after another, man.
Exactly.
Well, what would you okay? I ask all my guests this. If you can give a piece of information to younger you, what would it be?
Not stress so much. Not
Mhm.
stress about. I mean, I did retail management for 20 something years. I hated every second of it. Um, not stress about that. I'm 10 years married now to a wonderful person who totally supports me, but I've been divorced twice, and I was in both horrible relationships, and they hated that I was a writer. They wanted me to no work overtime, work and work and work,
Yeah.
and that's how you're going to make your money, and you're wasting your time being creative. And it stressed me out so much. And I would love to go back and say to 18-year-old me, when I had my first short story ever published. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but it's going to take you a long time to get there. It's going to take you all of your 20s and everything. Don't stress about it. Just do what you got to do.
I think that's brilliant, and I'm so glad you're in a place where you're doing this full time. You got there, man. You got there. You have a loving spouse who is apparently a fantastic cook.
Yes,
this is amazing, man.
That's why I'm never gonna lose weight.
Hey, man, worst things to lose, bro. All right, everyone. Thanks again for stopping in. This has been lovely. I have to have you on again, and one day I'll be on your Twitch going, ah. Actually, I don't type on Twitch. I guess we just Twitch. Yeah, I'll learn Twitch again.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Thanks again. Bye.